fire away.
Coach, one of the challenges of coaching the defensive side of the football when you've got a very up-tempo, mile-a-minute offense is to keep your guys engaged, and there's not a lot of time for adjustments on the fly because you never know how quickly you may be going back out.
Yeah, that's all through practice. You can simulate that. We're trying to. Obviously, it cuts down to the verbiage in your calls and trying to get things in as fast as you can so guys can settle in and play. But that's all trainable stuff. But an offense like this will push it to the limits, and all it takes is one person to not communicate or somebody not to get a call or a check, and then all of a sudden they can expose it. So it's a really good stuff to go against, to be honest with you, because this is the stuff that will really threaten you if you see it during a regular game week. So we're adjusting. I mean, our offense, they'll strain you in every way imaginable, and to do it really, really fast really puts some pressure not only on the kids but on the play caller too.
What did you know about Alex before he called you to talk about something?
Well, we competed against each other when he was at Iowa State. We saw each other quite a bit on the road recruiting too. And, you know, in this profession, I think a lot of people get kind of labeled as, you know, somebody that can coach, somebody that can recruit, somebody that's a bunch of hoorah-rah, some guys that are like, I mean, legit pros. And word gets around pretty quick. And I've always thought about him as a pro's pro. You know, every time that I saw him, he was always hustling, working. We competed against each other schematically. I know this part of we always go out of our way to see each other after games. To talk with each other and say what a good job each of us had done, and just kind of stayed in touch. You know, it's just one of those things where when you've been in this long enough, word of mouth comes back to what a person's all about. And I think that's probably the biggest attraction to me, is knowing you're going to somebody that's going to be very, very detailed, very, very thorough, sharp as heck. And obviously what he accomplished at Tennessee is like unheard of offensively. So it was a really cool combination, and it's great to be here.
What about this job and this school, this team in particular, attracted you?
Yeah, it takes me back to my days when, you know, I brought this up before, and somebody asked me about this when I was at the University of Connecticut. Now, we were kind of on the same course when I was at UConn, just made the jump into 1A football, but we were like stride for stride in terms of like the progression up. And I always remember this. It was, you know, I think about Matt Grothe, and I think about some of the guys that I had to compete against as a defensive coordinator. And just that, when I looked at this program, I said, oh my goodness, these guys have been in existence for, you know, 7 or 8 years, and they're almost number 2 in the country. And just thought about the talent that was down here. And if, like I said this beforehand, if you can draw kind of a 3-hour radius around this place, and we can keep the best ball players from going someplace else, the sky's the limit here. So it's got everything, the attraction of everything that you need to win a championship. So that's it. At the end of the day, you evaluate it from your boss, because those are the people you have to be. And our profession's pretty unique, because you're talking about 15 to 17 hours a day. And if you don't get along with each other, it's misery. The boss first, can you win a championship? Because you get a little bit older, you want to be able to coach your tail off and get some type of reward for it. So they have to be able to win a championship, and then can you sustain it through recruiting? Those were always the 3 things that you look for in a school, and if you can check them all off, then that's the place you want to be at.
Coach, obviously, you know, no need to rehash last year. We know how bad the defense struggled. When you came aboard, what was your first priority? Like, what did you say, okay, the first thing we've got to fix is this?
Get these guys closer together.
Okay.
That was it. It wasn't schematical. It was to make sure that each person knew a little bit about somebody, each person cared a little bit more about somebody. And that's our number one goal in spring football. Like, if you literally asked our players, and I was to pull up a PowerPoint on it, it says come together. That's it. Like, people want to say, like, schematically, we got to do this, tackle better in space. That's obviously on there. But there's a whole bunch of other things. But that's priority number one. Because our thought process is this. If I don't know you and you ask me to do something, more than likely I'm probably not going to do it. But if I know you and care about you, like a parent or a guardian, more than likely I'm going to do it at a pretty high level. So that's the start of, to me, any work environment, is to get close enough to people that you care for them, that you trust them, that eventually you love them, that there's going to be a low failure rate. And that's what we're working on right now. So that's the number one goal, and we'll continue that way. The second part is the fundamentals. We got to clean up the simplest things of staying low, taking proper angles to the football, playing better in space. All those things accumulate into how we can get better.
That trust factor is huge on defense, from the DBs not peeking in the backfield when they're playing man, and just trusting the guy beside you is going to do his job so that you can concentrate on what's in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's unique sport, It's not a one-on-one. It's not 5 versus 5. It's 11 versus 11. And these guys that eventually will get on the mic after me will tell you, we can't sack a quarterback unless we cover guys and know who we're covering, and then vice versa. It just all plays in hand. And it's us constantly reminding guys that it's such a team sport that you will eventually get yours. You know what I'm saying? If everybody can collectively do what's in the best interest of us. And if we continue to perform that way, the ball will find them. And which goes back to being a team guy, not being selfish, staying in the position you're supposed to be in. And that just takes time. But I always go back to the same thing. What would cause you not to want to do that? And that's when you put yourself, get into that selfish land. And what causes people to become selfish is because they feel like they're separated. And if we can continue to grow and bond together, where somebody really feels remorse from when they don't do their job, I think we'll get better.
You talked a little bit earlier about kind of the recruiting, the local recruiting footprint. Can you elaborate a little bit on how, particularly in the spring evaluation period later, how that's going to be a priority, how you can make it a priority?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a priority because there's a lot of developmental guys, and I've recruited this state quite a bit, and you can make a drastic jump from your junior year to going into your senior year, especially in the spring football. And we should know everything about everybody that's in that 3 hour. I mean, we all have a segment of it. We've had guys collectively up on junior day. I mean, we should know everything. There should not be a hidden gem out there that we don't know. And I think it's really, really important that we go out there and we recruit this area as hard as humanly possible, so every high school coach knows that, hey, listen, we're invested into you guys. If you look at some of the rosters when this place was winning 10, 11 games, we're filled with local guys, okay? So that's, to me, it's going out, doing our job, working with the high school coaches, getting those kids on our campus, and then eventually, and I know Coach always says this, you got to win. You know what I'm saying? So that's the ultimate thing to say, okay, you guys come in there, everybody talks a mean game on all this, but show us some production. What we can do is invest as many resources into recruiting this area and to go out and perform well next season so they can believe in us and we can get this thing flipped.
Just curious, what's your area?
What's my area right now?
Yeah, recruiting-wise.
Just local. They got me in as the defensive coordinator. I go around and see every defensive guy that I can. So they got me all over the place. But I'm working right now, my state area would be Miami-Dade.
Coach, the NCAA, they proposed new rule changes for next year. Have you thought into that for your game plan moving forward as spring practice?
No, have not. Most of the things that they're trying to do is probably trying to help us. So it's not overwhelming that we go into anything. If we're going to work on any new thing we'll wait till it gets passed and then working on a fall camp. So once again, it's there's certain ways to go to help you when you're seeing a pace offense. There's certain things that you can do to try to slow things down. But the efficiency of, especially the way our offense can do it, I mean, it's down to, I almost laughed because it was for the center, he wants the ball handed back to him in a certain manner so he can get the grip faster, so he can snap it faster. I'm like, oh my goodness, man, this is insanity going into it. So that's what the mindset is, to steal every second so you get fatigued, and ultimately when you get fatigued, you make mistakes. So this is really about us communicating. First off, when a call gets in, cut down the verbiage, because I can't read a book to you. By the time your eyes are back, they're already ready to snap the ball. And then we've got to communicate and get lined up. and then we got to be able to execute at a high level fundamentally. So every day in practice, and you would see it today in the beginning of practice, we actually work a drill. We do it on air versus a small formation, but we have to work it. That's why an offense is really good at it, because every day they work it on air, and we reversed it and we said, okay, every day we're going to work it on air so we can get better at it.
What's one or two of the most encouraging signs you've seen from the early little bit?
We've got some experience, you know, as much as anything else. Like, I look at the back end and I said, a lot of these guys have played a lot of ball. You know what I'm saying? So when you come in there, sometimes like schematically, there's some similarities to what everybody does, but it's a verbiage game. So you're saying, oh, we called this black last year, we call it white this year, whatever it may be. So they got to learn that part. But just the experience of being around these guys, they can kind of, like, sometimes young guys get in there, they panic, you know, they expend all their energy on stuff that's non-relevant to the play, so they're spent after the seventh play. We've got some experience. And I think anytime that you have some experience, you got a chance to get a little bit better. And that's the part that's actually been like, okay, this is pretty cool, because we can teach these guys how to play lower, square, how to tackle better, all these things, instead of just beating them up with scheme. Like, sometimes you got young guys and you spend your whole meeting of installing, and like, I need to watch this film to teach this guy how to play the game. With this group, we did the install early enough and they picked it up fast enough that we're able to do that now. We're able to go into a room and just worry about body positions and running to the football and effort and all those things. So that's the one thing that, like when you look at it, you say, boy, you know, and you go through the roster, especially in the back end, you say, these guys played some ball before.